How to use the Claude Desktop app and set it up so you can do it once, forget it, and go. Every single day, if you are serious as a Claude user and you want to take advantage of all of its services, the Claude Desktop app is where you should be living every day. You can still use the chat feature that's in the browser that you're used to because the same one is going to be in the desktop app anyway, and they are synced, but all of the capabilities of Claude are in the desktop app. So let me show you how to get started with that. So the first thing you want to do is download the Claude desktop app, be it for your Mac or your Windows machine, and of course sign in. So the plan that you already have, the Pro plan, the 5X or the 20X, you'll be able to use it in the desktop app just like you would on the browser here. So this is our browser, Claude. This stays as is, nothing changes here. Once we download the desktop app, we're going to go in our applications folder. Once we download the desktop app, we're going to go in the applications folder and find it right here, Claude, and it's going to open up. Perfect. So I've now opened my Claude desktop app. I've logged in with my plan. My name is down there. And if we were gonna see here quickly, one difference between the chat only and the app is that we do have our chat, we have all of our chat history here already, but now we have two extra places we can go, and that's Cowork and Code. Now, a lot of people use chat in the browser without actually setting it up, but let's say you have set it up here in the browser. If you click on your name and you go to settings, you'll see the settings here. And if you go to the desktop app, just like that, that is the first place you should start at the bottom here in your settings. And you'll see that they're exactly the same. So whatever settings I have in my browser here is exactly the same settings. Like if I look at privacy right now, I'm not sharing location metadata. They're not tracking my data. So if I look at that in the desktop app right here, privacy, just to see that they're exactly the same. Exactly. The preferences are the same. So they are connected. If you've already set up your preferences here in the chat, in the browser version of Claude Chat, it's going to be already there in your desktop app. So they communicate, you don't have to start over. That's the first thing. Now, if you've never set up your preferences, that is exactly what you should do. You should come here in the bottom left corner where your name is, go to settings, and the first thing you want to do is give Claude instructions about who you are, why you're using it. It could be for personal reasons, it could be for business reasons, give it context. So every time Claude runs any kind of program or, code in here in the background, you're not going to be seeing the code or anything here. That's why the desktop app exists. So you can interact with the chat version of Claude, but actually start automating your business or automating your day to day and even building apps in Claude Code. But this is meant to be a very user-friendly way for you to interact with the background AI code that is running. So every time the AI code runs, it's going to read here the instructions first. Claude will keep these in mind across chat and Cowork within Anthropic guidelines. So this information is really important. The one thing you can add here is your voice if you're using it for content creation. And the other thing you want to add for sure is also how to respond to emails. Make sure it sounds like a human and not like a robot, basically. No M dashes, no this, not that. Like basically, when AI writes on its own without any kind of feedback, it sounds like a robot. And so we want to avoid that when we're using it because we want it to sound like us. So that's kind of like the basis. And then you also add your brand palette for your brand. If you have a brand website or anything around that, you can give it your colors. If you have documents you want to build here, which is really easy, and they have a certain kind of styling, you can provide the brand palette here. I suggest you go through these notifications, make sure they're all here, and then I would go over to privacy, turn it off the preferences here if you don't want your data tracked, and go in capabilities and make sure the memory is turned on. One thing we don't realize about AI when we start using any of these models, AI doesn't have built-in memory. When you start over, that memory doesn't carry over. So if you want to be able to search across chats, we need to turn those on and generate memory from chat history as well. So same here, general, make sure all these are turned on and we're good to go. So before we continue here on connectors, general, extensions, and developer, I'm going to show you now what is different here. The chat is exactly the same, nothing changes. for the chat, you keep using it the way you would normally. What starts getting interesting is when we go to Cowork now in the desktop app that you don't have access to in the browser chat only, is that we can start scheduling tasks that are regular. So I want to run something every week, every day, every month, every quarter. I can come to schedule tasks and create a new task. You can create it with Claude where Claude's going to ask you questions, or if you already know, because you have an SOP or a process you already do every day or every week or every month regularly, you can just set it up manually because you can just copy paste or provided documents from there. So before we do that, let's take a look at what I have here. I have a daily briefing every 8 a.m. My inbox calendar and anything that is outstanding. I have an action log that I started creating here on an ongoing basis that runs at 8 a.m. every day. And so every day at 8 a.m., this app has to be open. You have to make sure here that it's open. If it's not, these processes are not going to run. These updates are not going to run. So every day at 8 a.m., I have this open. And if I don't, that's totally fine. Next time I open it, it's going to run then. Or I can even come here and say run now and so on, or edit and so on. Another one I have every week is a computer cleanup, just because I download a lot of things and, lots of ChatGPT images and videos and files. So there's an agent or a cleaner that runs on Sundays at 9 a.m. And again, if my computer Sunday morning is not open, that's totally fine. When I open this desktop app next time, it's still going to run. Or I can just come here and say run. I have Monday content ideas that I can move to Canva. I have a quarterly business audit for SEO, offers, pricing, and marketing strategy based on my website that gets delivered as a PowerPoint deck to me. Next one will be July 1st. All Pro monthly invoice. I have a client that I run the monthly invoice here, and I have a tutorial about that separately. You can look into how to do that. Same thing, monthly expense analysis every 5th of the month. Update previous month's expenses. The reasons that one doesn't have this green when to update is because I do it manually. When I actually have my expense reports, I come in here and I tell them where they're saved and it runs them. So that's why there's no at 9 a.m. and so on. And one important assumption here is that we have our apps connected. This is the big benefit of Cowork, is that now we can start connecting our apps across the different apps we work with. So the main ones you're going to want to start with, so you're going to go to customize to do that, to connect your apps. And for example, for my daily briefing, it needs access to my Gmail and to my Google Calendar and my Drive, because I asked it to save my action log on my Drive. So these are the first three you're going to come for: Gmail, Calendar, Drive to connect. So that way it can actually go, Claude will be able to go and look for follow-ups in your email, daily briefing for any meetings you have, and for today or over the week, you can tell it how, you want that structured and save things in your Google Drive or pull information. Other apps you can connect are I have connected already, Canva, for example. GitHub is a very important one. You should set your GitHub account if you don't have one yet. That's something I'm going to make a separate video for, but that's something that is really important if you want to work across AI projects in an integrated way. GitHub is where everything will stay instead of just on your computer. Because right now, Cowork and Code, they stay on your computer. But if you want to collaborate across different users, this is where all the truth that everyone will share lives. And you can see here all the connectors. You can search. I won't go in detail here, but come here and search what you need. The other thing you can find here is skills, because the most important thing that Claude, Cowork, and Code do to make you actually automate your work for your business effectively is give you the ability to have skills. Skills are different blueprints for different roles within a business. For example, in a business, you can have a content writer, you can have a video editor, you can have an accountant, you can have a bookkeeper, you can have a sales prospector, you can have a sales closer, you can have so many different levels of very specific skills to do a certain job. And then in addition to that, to do a certain job for your business with all of its particularities. So skills are something that I suggest you create. There are going to be skills already built in, but for example, there's a setup Cowork built-in skill. It gives you a guided Cowork setup. It's just a text file that tells it what to do. That's what a skill is, and that's why you can create your own skills. If you have SOPs of how to do certain things in your business, they can become skills. This is where paying for Claude makes sense for a small business because these skills are going to become your brain within Claude. You want to dump everything that's in your brain and even in your day to day, it can be your personal life. You do things your way. Every one of us is unique in how we run our businesses or our day to day. So whatever it is for you that makes sense to you, imagine if you even have ADHD, for example, you can set this up and how it makes sense for you. So here we go. This is a skill that you can start by running first. Welcome to Cowork. It's a workspace where I can take on multi-step tasks and run them for you start to finish, reading your emails, searching your docs. Skills are reusable workflows you trigger with the /. So whenever you do /, there are all the skills you have available to run, and you can add more or you can customize existing skills. And how many skills we have here. So highly recommend you go through these, see what they're about and which ones make sense for you. Okay, so this is how a skill is invoked. Now it's saying I have all these plugins. I have already a serious stack, pretty much the full knowledge catalog installed. For your coaching and marketing goals, the 3 doing the heaviest lifting are small business, marketing, and brand voice. Let me check if there's anything role specific you're missing. So it's going to do the work for you and it's going to tell you what to add. I already have a lot of them. And it's also going to suggest plugins. So let's talk about plugins. While it's doing this, go back to customize and talk about plugins. They're combinations of skills and connectors. So let's go to browse plugins. And the reason why I want to show you this is because there is a small business plugin suite. I have mine installed, which is why here it's already there, but you can install it for yourself. And so you see it's skills and connectors. So if we look at all the skills here, you can see it goes from invoicing to handling complaints to lead triage to price check, payroll, sales brief, campaigns, reviewing contracts, super important for every business, content strategy, month close, Canva, and so on. And then it has 11 connectors as part of that bundle. It's kind of like a bundle specifically for small business owners because these are the most likely skills and connectors you'll need as a small business. So QuickBooks, PayPal, HubSpot, Canva, DocuSign, Slack, Stripe, Square, Gmail, of course, Calendar, and Drive. Like I said, Gmail, Calendar, and Drive are your basic ones you want to start. There's also Microsoft Office, MS 360, so you should be able to install that too. And of course, there's more specific plugins if you don't want to install all of those. And you can also create a plugin, upload one if you know how to, combine skills or create one with Claude. There we go. So Claude is always, if you're not sure about how to do something, where you can start. Help me create a new Cowork plugin. And it's going to start interviewing you and ask you as you go how to. Now let's take a look at the Cowork setup. Okay, so it's telling me 2 that fill real gaps for your audience growth goal. Posters. Okay, I can auto post to 28 plus channels, including IG, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. I didn't know that. I was using Later and I got sick of paying for an extra tool. I was like, I'll just do it. I can set it up for LinkedIn and YouTube online and then I can do it manually for TikTok and IG. And then Adobe for creativity, turn one asset into platform ready social variations. I've never tried this. Great. I'm going to add these 2 and I'm going to come back to them later. Okay, posters, it's done. And then add this one. And now you can actually start seeing it. This is pretty cool. I'm definitely going to see what Adobe can do for me here. So now what we added it, we can see /. And we can see, Adobe. We have these batch edit photos, and quick cut, and so on. And you can see what they do. You might not use all of them. You might use 1 or 2. And that's enough if it saves you time. Because that's the goal for these. Okay, we went through all the customized options for now. If you haven't done artifacts before, let's take a look at artifacts. They are very clean, presentable documents that can either be a PowerPoint or a Word doc or a PDF or even a live URL. So for example, I ran a campaign last month and I wanted to create a quick dashboard with just some screenshots. And so I gave basically Claude Chat the screenshots of my Meta and my Google Analytics account. So it gave me the webinar campaign performance so I can see what happened. and insights. So this was done in 15 minutes. So this is an artifact and it's published. So you can actually, because it's published, I can get this link and I can go to the browser, paste it, and I can see this artifact in the browser, and you can share that, of course, with other people. You can share artifacts with others. Great. So these are artifacts. I created lots of things, PowerPoint presentations, and that's why you want to give it your brand voice. And that is why you want to give it your brand voice, your brand color, so it can create these artifacts that match what you want. Another thing I wanted to show you, we can come here. So another thing I did as an artifact was a business audit. I basically asked Claude to audit with my website, my SEO, offers, price, and marketing strategy. So this is great for a solopreneur in a service-based business. And it came up with a PowerPoint deck of recommendations right here. And this is another artifact. And you can download this, it's already in a folder, or you can open it in Microsoft PowerPoint or Google Drive. But it gave me this great, again, branded with my colors artifact. And I could have asked for a PDF. I could have asked for a different format, and I can ask for it even now. I can be like, give me a PDF and a Word doc version of this, and it will do it in 5 to 10 minutes. So this is Cowork. Really, that's the power, the scheduled, the connections, and customize the skills and the plugins that combine those two for you. Every time you work, I highly suggest Cowork and Code, of course. You need to start a new project. So like you see, I had the invoicing scheduler. It started as a project. First, I set up the project, and I highly recommend, you can always, okay, so you have 3 ways of starting a project. You can start from scratch, setting up a folder with instructions and files if you haven't already had one. If you already have a folder, you can you can use an existing. The other thing is you can import a project. If you had a conversation in chat, projects from chat, you can search that conversation here and it will let you bring that in so you don't have to start from scratch. I usually recommend starting either creating an existing folder on your desktop and putting all like files in it that it could need, or you can start from scratch and do it as you go. Now, one important thing when you start is, of course, your name, you give it instructions, you add files, and you give it, of course, where it should go. Let's pick one on my desktop. Maybe this one. That's fine. I didn't tell it anything yet. I just wanted to start it to show you something here. Before you get going on the project and you ask it anything yet, you want to pick your model from the beginning. Once you pick it, like if you're on the highest use model, so Opus 4.8 is the highest thinking model right now because Fable is not allowed yet because of the US government. But you see the different models here. Haiku is the cheapest one. If you pick Haiku for something super simple, I highly recommend that. It will not use up a lot of your tokens. Then Sonnet 4.6 is a little bit more intensely thinking, using up more tokens. Great for everyday tasks. And 4.8 is for complex tasks. So more when you work in code and you're starting a project, I would recommend this. I think in Cowork, you want to stay here. And also you can choose your effort. Right now, I'm using the highest effort. I'm going to go with medium. I think that's a good idea. And I think I'm going to use Sonnet to maximize my tokens. And then I'm going to get going. And so that's how a project is started. And once you start a project, then you can actually create a schedule here from it. So you can set up a recurring task. So what I always suggest is you start with a project, you pick your model, you figure out what you want. Once the project is like, okay, I'm ready to go now, then you schedule a task around it if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, that's totally fine. For example, my audit project started here. I started an audit project and then I scheduled a task because I liked it. I was like, oh, I want to see this every quarter. I want to know what my business offer and my SEO and everything is doing every quarter. So then I just clicked here and so create a new task, or you can add it to an existing task. Now let's go back to projects. I'm going to delete this. If you come on these 3 dots, you can edit, of course, you can delete, you can pin. Now let's get to Claude Code. This is where it gets really interesting for me. This is interesting for your day-to-day. Code is for your projects. Now, in Claude Code, instead of scheduled, in Cowork we had the scheduled, in Code we have the routines. It's kind of the same thing. You see here I have my routines. I have a monthly digest reminder, and this is for reminders. But the good thing is, if we were to start from scratch, if I go back to routines, so you'll see here I have a daily routine that I run every day at 3 p.m. It basically looks up Craigslist, rental.ca, Kijiji, and viewit.ca for an apartment search. So that's a routine. It's an agent. If you've heard the word agent a lot. If you've heard the word agent a lot, this is what routines are. They are agents. So a routine as an agent, I have an agent looking up for Toronto apartments every single day at 3 p.m. It says it's paused. I'm going to turn it on. And then the other thing I'm running is a routine every month that I basically, and you see it here, you have your daily kind of agent updates. So every single day I'm running at 3 p.m. You start basically as a project. It's not saying new project, but it should be. Let's start with the most simple setup, select folder. And again, this is like setting up a project. So I'm going to go here on desktop. I want to do something today with my website. So I'm going to go in my AI project, which is not very well named, but I'm working in it right now. So it's showing here which folder you're in. You can add more folders, but for now, I don't want to confuse things. Let's just keep it simple. So before you ask a question, which I will shortly, but I want to show you something here. You have different modes of Claude taking action when you start it to ask something to do. You can tell it that you just accept whatever it wants to do and you trust it. You can ask it to ask you permission. I think in the beginning that's important. It's gonna ask permission anyway usually, but you don't want it to bypass. But you can. You'll see if you find, these permissions annoying and repetitive and always the same, you can bypass permission. But when you're starting, what I recommend is plan mode. Because what Claude is going to do in the beginning is figure out a plan with you on how to best approach this and to minimize how much tokens you're using. I think this is a best practice to always start with the plan mode. And again, you can use, the different models. I'm going to go with Sonnet 4.6. I don't think I'm asking it anything too crazy. Let's try Sonnet. So low usage here. And this is how much of my plan I've used right now, 21%. And as we use Claude Code, this is going to change. Okay, and I can, of course, record here. So what I'll do right now is I'm going to start, and I'm going to say, I want to go back to my IPC. The file with my IPC, I believe, is the brand assets file in the AI services websites folder. I want you to go back to the file because I want to update my website. I also want you to adopt the Alex Hormozi skill that I have to actually propose a redesign of my webpage, my homepage, and my work with me page. Those are the two most important in terms of messaging to clean it up and make it really simple. Of course, look at my existing website, keep what makes sense there, but let's start first and foremost with speaking to the different pain points of my ICP user. One thing you should always add here to the prompt is ask me clarifying questions until you are 95% clear and confident that you have everything you need to complete my request. So this is a best practice. Always, especially in the beginning, or if you give it any complex task, add this question. Because the best is that you give Claude enough context so it knows what to do. But the thing is, the more context you give it, like if you dump a bunch of files and a bunch of long text, it's going to eat up your tokens. But if you ask it to ask you what it's missing to do something, then it's going to ask you just enough information without overdoing the tokens. So again, this is to maximize. This is good. So one thing I want to show you, I said here, I also want you to adopt the Alex Hormozi skill that I actually have to propose a redesign of my webpage. This is a skill I created online. I went to a GitHub of Alex Hormozi style marketing playbooks, and I just added it to my Claude skill. So because a skill is always a / and then we do the actual name that we gave the skill, Hormozi, you'll find it right here and you click here. So it will know what kind of style to approach. Hormozi is known for his offer, clarity, and value, and how basically to structure offers in a service industry. So if you're a service owner, it's a great way to add his playbook and marketing style, and it's like he's working for you, but it costs you $0. So now we're set. Let's run this. It's going to ask me questions if it's not true. Now, one thing you're going to get used to real quick here is that because you're in plan mode, you have to allow permission for Claude to run different kinds of commands, and that's important. Just allow it. It's not asking you permission to like change your passwords or anything. So it is annoying in the beginning. You can also say always allow if you have that option, or bypass permission. So it'll automatically enable in Claude Code settings. So it's basically asking you for permission to go and look into your files. So right now it seems annoying to do that, and it is part of kind of the workflow, but remember that you're giving it access to executive functions on your computer. It's generally safe, but you need to, of course, ideally consent. Yeah, it can it's totally fine if it accesses my downloads folder and reminders. Okay, so it went through my brand doc. It described different ICPs. I have corporate teams, SMBs, worry about AI security, and sole service providers. So these are the questions I needed clarity on after basically went into my files and read them. And I just want to make sure it doesn't make any changes. The good thing here is that it's always going to ask you for approval. Same thing with Cowork. It's going to always ask you for approval. That's what you want. So right now it's planning it out. So I don't even need to ask it anything else. I'm just going to let it plan it out. And so far we're waiting 10 minutes. So working with Claude Code, it takes time. So this is normal. It's not going to be 2 seconds here and there, especially if you're asking it to go through information and understand everything and come up with a plan. In the beginning, it's going to take longer, and then it's going to be less involved for you and then more for the AI over time as you go. And this is how you start working with the coding side. It will take time. So I pressed escape. It stopped. Okay. I hadn't read the plan. I saw it. It's right here. So you will always see the results when they're well structured on the right side. So here's the redesign plan. These are the exact phrases, tensions to mirror and copy. I don't know where to start. I tried it and got garbage. I'm paying for tools I don't use. My team is already using AI without me knowing. I'm falling behind and I can feel it. I bookmarked everything and done nothing. Safety and anxiety. What's safe to put in? What stays private? This is very normal. What if I expose client data? And here is the proposed structure. Hero. Lead with their internal monologue based on Hormozy story brand hybrid. You know AI is important. You just don't know where to start. And every YouTube tutorial, tool, comparison, and 10 prompt listicles make it worse, not better. That's the gap I closed. It's redesigned the 2 main pages I wanted it to redesign. So for now, if I'm happy with this, I can say, okay, go. So I can come here and I can say, okay, continue implementing, or I can say, or change XYZ. And if you want to speak voice to text to the AI, just like I have been here in Claude. So you have here down the little microphone and Cowork as well. If we do new task, you'll see this microphone here, and same with chat. So you can just do voice to text. You just go to a website called whisperflow.ai here, whisperflow.ai. It's free, you download it, and you can actually start with voice to text on your Mac. It's a huge time saver, especially if you have a lot of, instructions to give. I recommend it. So you can kind of see now how we start here with each Cowork and code. And if I allow this here, it will update my website for me or create apps or create other offer pages. If you want to do something quickly without taking too much time, I highly recommend you go and create an artifact. But if you want to actually build or change your website or build an app or create strong agents, come to Code, create it here, and start getting used to working from here. So this is where the automation happens in Cowork, and in Code is where we build new applications. So if this was useful, like, follow, and comment. I would love your feedback. Most people are not using the desktop app, but they should be because everything's in one place. And this is where you can actually level up your usage of AI for your small business. And I hope you'll take a look, give it a try, and let me know if you have any questions.